It is Sports Lounge number 234. It's a Pirates and Miami edition. Marcus Traxler, the only one inside the Mitchell paper.
That's right. Dialing in from the headquarters.
Charlie Hildebrand as well. He'll be popping in and out. In and out, popping in and out.
In and out. Wanted to show the blue shirt for South Dakota State because they won.
There we go. It's a good win there against Mary. Good University of Mary win. 2-0. 2-0 on the season. College football was pretty good this week, as we know, as we were discussing. Next week, not so good. But this week had a lot of ranked teams play each other. Not all the games were good, but there were some intriguing ones. I would maybe go with Alabama-Mississippi State as the game I spent the majority of my time watching last night. Marcus, what did you spend the majority of your night watching last night?
I had the three screens going, basically. One on Miami, Notre Dame, another on Alabama, Mississippi State. But I'd say the game of the night, not in the college division. Sioux Falls, Washington, Sioux Falls, Roosevelt. That was the game that got the big screen, mainly because that's the only screen I have that gets cable. So
it was like 20-19 or something like that.
2019 was the final. Yeah, there's a stop on a 2-pointer with like 25 seconds left to decide the game. So
take the points. Should have taken the points. Charlie, what did you pay attention to last night?
I was at the Sioux City Journal newsroom where we do not have ESPN, so it was basically NBC, ABC, or Fox. So it was switching back and forth between Notre Dame breaking out the turnover chain every 7 plays, or Miami breaking out the turnover chain against Notre Dame, or Baker Mayfield in the first half just torching a pretty good TCU defense that he made look pretty ordinary.
Baker Mayfield, very likely to win the Heisman this year. Everybody else has fallen off, and he has surged in the second half of the season. I heard on a show afterwards, somebody claimed that, whatever happened on Saturday makes it harder for the committee and all this, when I thought that was the opposite of what I thought. Whatever happened last night makes it easier.
I agree. I think it makes it easier now because there's just less variables, less scenarios. Yeah, Notre Dame's out of it. Washington's out of it.
TCU out.
TCU's out.
You don't
the odds of getting 2 SEC teams went from very possible to now slim. Possible still, but much less likely.
You don't have to worry about a Georgia team going undefeated and losing the SEC title game. What to do with them? You don't have to worry about that. Marcus, how do you? There's 8 teams I would say that are left in the hunt here.
Yep.
How do you saw my rankings from last night? How I think it's going to go down. I think it was Alabama 1, Clemson 2, Oklahoma 3. I think Ohio State 4. Rooting, of course, for Auburn. What do you think here with 3 weeks to go left in the year?
I think I'm not maybe as high on Auburn beating Alabama as you are.
I am. I am very high on that.
You are. You're very high on it. So I tend to think that the Miami-Clemson ACC title game is probably a playoff game of sorts.
A quarterfinal.
A quarterfinal. And Miami, they got up to number 2 in the AP poll today. I don't know if that means that they would be in a position where I don't think they can lose to Clemson and still make it. I think that's one of those deals where you're probably going to have a loss too late in the season. Now, if Auburn or if Auburn's out of it, if Georgia were to lose to Alabama, they've got 2 losses, so maybe you take them off the table. I don't know. But I feel like Miami-Clemson, that's probably a play-in game of sorts. If Oklahoma can manage to get through the playoffs without messing the bed, they should be able to be in there. So that kind of leaves the door open for a Georgia team. I don't like the idea that Ohio State's going to still have a prayer getting in, but they're probably the best 2-loss team out there. And so we're in a position now where that leaves Wisconsin in a pretty good spot here if they can somehow get through 12-0. They should. and then they're going to play Ohio State, Penn State, some combination of those teams in the title game. And my hope is one of those teams beats Wisconsin. But we'll see how it all shakes out. I mean, I think Alabama is probably pretty safe, even if they were to lose to Georgia in the championship game. They lose to Auburn, it becomes a little bit more different if you end up in a scenario where, I mean, as Alabama, they basically locked up their division.
If they lose, they won't go. Auburn will go. Auburn, Alabama decides the division.
It decides the division, but doesn't decide the playoff, right? I mean, you could still
get both of them in then. Like if whoever wins the SEC is getting in.
Right, and you could have Auburn beat Alabama, beat Georgia.
Sure.
They're in, Alabama's in. That's the scenario you like, correct?
That's what I would like to happen. Yeah, I would love to see that. Yeah.
Yeah. So, it is interesting that we were just talking about sort of mass chaos last week, and now here we are. It's pretty clear. We're down to 7 teams, 8 teams. So we'll see how it goes.
If you want things to be very easy, cut and dry, I think if Alabama beats Auburn and then beats Georgia, it's going to be, I think, just across the board, it's basically going to be conference champs get in and pretty, straight and easy. I think if Auburn wins or if Georgia beats Alabama in the SEC title game, that's your potential for chaos. And I think we could still have some chaos. I don't think it could be as dramatic as it was a week or two ago, but we could still have some weird things happen. But I think the key for that happening is you need weird stuff in the SEC then.
Would Auburn be ranked number 1 if they win the whole thing? If they get to the playoff winning the conference, would the committee put them with 2 losses over everybody else?
Assuming the other teams not named Georgia and Auburn still win. I mean, I get Clemson and Miami have to play each other, but no other upsets in the top 7 or 8.
Yeah, even if Auburn runs the table.
I think Oklahoma would be ahead of Auburn at 12-1. Other than that, I'm not sure if anyone else would be.
How good is Miami?
Well, they're good when they take the ball away like they did on Saturday against Notre Dame. I realize that's part of the reason the turnover chain has gotten so hot. I mean, it's really hot right now. I think they had 4 or 5 takeaways last night, but I guess the question is how sustainable is that? I would tend to think that it's probably not real sustainable. You're going to have a game here where you only get 1 or 2, so that is the challenge without a doubt. And I think until we see Miami's offense have to carry a lot of the load, I think that'll be the truest test.
I've got a comparison for turnover chain U. Let's see what you guys think of this. Miami reminds me of the Pete Carroll USC teams, especially in the middle when they were really, really good. But it was basically when the lights shone bright and they were like, this is a game, they showed up and they played lights out. It was when it was an 11 or 2:30 game that no one cared about, that it was like, oh, they're really struggling right now. Why are they struggling with this team that's not any good? So I guess the bright side for them is they're going to play a lot of good games the rest of the way, but obviously they're going to play a lot more better teams at the same time. But it seems when the 2 times the lights have really been like, oh, this is a big game against Virginia Tech and Notre Dame, who maybe both look a little bit not as good as they did a couple weeks ago, but I think are both still pretty good. That, they essentially boat raced both of them.
I did.
Circle that Black Friday game, Miami at Pitt, where they struggled way too much with Pitt.
I did find it interesting how they were going on and on about how great the crowd was at Miami, and it was a good crowd, but not great crowds usually at Miami. So they would be front runners. They would be front runners.
They had a good joke at the end of the broadcast about I think Chris Fowler said something about don't they play with Virginia next week? He's like, well, all these fans will be back next week when they play Virginia. It's like, yeah, no, they won't. So that should be funny. I don't know if that's who they play, but he did make that remark. So,
quick side note on Miami was I didn't watch College Game Day, but I guess they had A-Rod as one of the pickers.
they did. Yeah.
It seems like a criminal shame that they did not have The Rock to do it. Whenever they're in Miami, like by hook or by crook, you got to find a way to get Dwayne Johnson to do it. Since he actually played football there. Where I guess, I mean, as far as I know, A-Rod has very little association with the University of Miami.
Good old Rod.
I think they've had The Rock on before, which might be the reason for that. But
I think they had him on for a Louisville Rutgers game, I think.
Is that true?
No, that's not true whatsoever.
Okay.
I know there was an ESPN Classic game on whenever that was the other few weeks ago. It was Rutgers and somebody. When Rutgers was like 12th in the country. Like, oh boy.
And like if they don't want repeat guest pickers, I understand that. But if there was going to be someone who was going to have one, I would think it should be Miami with The Rock.
That's right.
Yeah.
Like they should get a free pass. That it's just like no, whenever they're there, it's always going to be this guy, and he's going to show up in classic early 2000s WWE Rock persona.
There we go. Rock bottom Corso through the announce table. Wisconsin beat Iowa. Again, Wisconsin. I called Charlie. I've called like Auburn in the past, the Shawn Michaels, because they have the best games. I know whoever else we've mentioned has the best games. Wisconsin has the worst games. I don't know if I've asked this before, but who's the pro wrestling equivalent to Wisconsin? Like Yokozuna?
So you're saying Wisconsin is like circa 1998 Bill Goldberg just doing squash matches that don't last very long and that aren't very technically sound a lot of the time?
I'm looking for a guy who you really, when he comes on, you'd rather not watch.
What was the guy's name? Viscera? The 600-pound guy, which works well because Wisconsin's quite large.
Sure.
Maybe that.
Just garbage.
People.
Just garbage. At Iowa, it was a struggle, a huge struggle for them to do anything, and they get a couple of pick sixes at the beginning, and then in the middle, and all of a sudden it's 17-14, and you're like, all right, 2 more pick sixes, and you maybe win the game, but then no, it just wasn't there. So Wisconsin, they win. Iowa was at least ranked. I don't know if they'll be ranked at the end of the year. They may be. If Wisconsin beats Michigan, I don't think Michigan will be ranked. I don't think they're ranked now. So, again, it's possible that Wisconsin rolls through the regular season without playing a ranked team. So that's, if you want to know why they're not, I mean, their strength of schedule is just bad, and they don't even have one team. That's, Iowa's probably, is Iowa the best team they've played, probably?
To this point,
yeah.
It's either Iowa or Northwestern.
Yeah, and that's not great.
Lane Kiffin's Florida Atlantic team.
Not great. A couple of maybe 8-win teams. 8-4, that's the best you've got. So another win for Wisconsin. My favorite game was Alabama-Mississippi State. Came so close to beating Alabama. Couldn't quite get it done. There was let's see. About 2 minutes or so left. It was a tie game. It was a 4th and short. Mississippi State's somewhere around midfield. They decided to punt. And situation where maybe you go for it. To beat Alabama, you're probably going to have to pull something out like that. Going for it like on a 4th and 2 at the 40 to get it done, but they couldn't. It was exciting while it lasted, but Jalen Hurts let them down. Pretty impressive win right there. So Alabama, they haven't knocked the doors off of any decent teams. Mississippi State, I think, is pretty good. Their schedule just hasn't been there. I mean, LSU was a 24-10 game. So I think Auburn's going to beat them in a couple weeks. How do you feel about Auburn, Alabama? It's at Auburn, and I think Auburn is far and away very much the best team that they will play all year long.
I agree that Auburn will be the best team Alabama's played up to that point. I still think Alabama's going to win, but I went from like 3 weeks ago thinking Alabama would win by like 30 to I think it'll be a game, and Alabama will at least have to actually win it. I don't think Auburn will just kind of roll over and die like most of the teams Alabama's played this year.
Marcus, very surprising that Georgia gets blown out by Auburn. Not that they lose, but that they just get absolutely dominated. That defense that was good for all year long did not look good. Georgia had some opportunities to score some points at a long pass that if it's caught goes for a touchdown likely, and they just had some missed field goals, so they let it go early. Georgia, as long as we have lived, they've always disappointed in that big game, and this was their chance to. If they win this game, they got a pretty good chance of going to the playoff, regardless of if they lose to Alabama. But right now, Georgia's done. Georgia needs to beat Auburn, which doesn't look likely now, or they need to beat Alabama, which also does not seem likely with the way their quarterback plays. So again, what do you make of Georgia losing another huge game that probably would have gotten them in the playoff?
Well, I'll apologize if this point was already made, but it has to be a certain kind of irony that Mark Richt wins a huge game prime time. Then
yes,
I think it was somewhat fitting there that's what happened. I expected Georgia's defense to hang in there a lot better than they did, and that was tough. And Auburn, they got some physical running backs. They can move the ball. It looked like Cam Newton, whoever else that last quarterback was when they were good. Nick Marshall, wasn't it?
Yep.
That kind of looked like that sort of offense when they're cooking and when Gus Malzahn's got the offense rolling. That's when Auburn's really good. Just shows how good of a coach he is.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. It looked like Malzahn had that play call and magic back that he had at other times in his career when Auburn was really good.
Stidham, he can run a little bit, so that's good. Kerryon Johnson. He probably, if they can do what I hope that they do, he'll probably be top 5 with the Heisman, a late candidate there. I do like when they give the running back the ball 35, 40 times and just run him in the goddamn ground. That's always fun to see. But Auburn, Alabama in 2 weeks, pretty big game coming up. This week, not so much here. Charlie, what team has the easiest path to get to where they need to go here? Seems like every team has at least one game left where it's like, well, even Oklahoma versus whoever they play.
That's a good question.
Is it Ohio State, if you believe a 2-loss Ohio State team gets in?
Ohio State could be, but they looked so bad against Iowa and did not look good against Oklahoma either. And in a one-game scenario, I mean, I think we can agree that Ohio State has more talent than Wisconsin. But in one game, I could definitely see Wisconsin, who's very good defensively, clamping down on J.T. Barrett and winning a low-scoring, gross game. I wanted to say Clemson, but I don't know. Miami looked pretty good last night. I guess I'm going to go with Oklahoma, even though they're probably. I guess everybody else in the Big 12 outside of Oklahoma has 2 conference losses now, so I guess they're going to play like TCU or Oklahoma State or West Virginia.
I don't know how the tiebreaker works there. Iowa State. I forgot Iowa State. My heavens. That was a fun little 3.5 hours there to start off the day. Iowa State, Oklahoma State points. Quarterback for Iowa State was just amazing. Iowa State's defense was dog shit city, but boy, the pass interference call in the end zone that was not called, and of course the fades left and the fades right didn't work, surprisingly. So stupid play calls there by Iowa State. Could have won the game, but they didn't.
Really too bad after they had that like 4th and 14 or whatever that they dumped off to the running back who made like 3 guys miss to get the first down on that last drive. I thought they were going to tie it. I thought they were going to score and then like go for 2 and just win in regulation right there. But we didn't even get to that point, unfortunately.
I think if they would have won out, they would have been in the title game, I think, because their losses were to what? They were two. They lost.
Texas Tech was their only, Texas and West Virginia.
Yeah, Texas is not in the mix because they beat TCU, they beat Oklahoma, they beat Oklahoma State, so they beat the teams in the mix there. So that was very disappointing for Iowa State, but they'll get them next year. They'll get them next year, and they'll go 6-6 next year and go to a real good bowl game. That'll be good for them. Any game, whether it's Auburn, Alabama, Miami, Clemson, any playoff game that could happen. Marcus, what is the game for you, or a couple games, the games you have to watch?
You're talking about the rest of the season.
Yeah, whether it's a game we know is going to happen, or is it a game that I would like to see? You know, if you want to see Alabama, Clemson for the third year in a row, or if you want to see Miami, Auburn, or Miami, Georgia, whatever.
Well, I like the idea of Auburn against Oklahoma. I think we talked a little bit about that would be a rematch of the Sugar Bowl last year. And I realized that game ended up being a little one-sided, right?
Yes.
Didn't Oklahoma run all over them? But we think that Auburn's better this year, and so I would be excited to see that game. I'm not sure about Alabama Clemson for a third year in a row.
Yeah, let's go. Fuck yeah.
Even if that's in the semifinals. I mean, I'm certainly excited for Auburn, Alabama, but I think I want Alabama to win that game in the regular season simply because it probably leaves a few more options open for the playoff as far as teams getting in and that sort of thing. And maybe it doesn't. Maybe
I just want to see what happens if Alabama has one loss. What happens to them? That's what
it will be interesting. And the scenario I'm looking at is if they're a one-loss team and they're sort of sitting in that 4th spot, and do you keep Alabama in and you leave Wisconsin out, 13-0 Wisconsin out? So that's an interesting scenario. I hope we see it because I would love to see Wisconsin be left out. I don't want to see them in the playoff at all, but I also understand that if you're 13-0 and you do have a fairly significant win in that Big Ten title game, that might be enough for them to get in. And I saw some people trying to make the argument, that the Iowa win, especially since they stomped Ohio State, is better.
Wow.
But I refuse to buy that. So I really, Penn State, Ohio State could do us a big favor and just knock them out.
There's 3 games I would like to see. One of them, which I think is already set in stone, and then 2 potential playoff matchups. I want to see Miami Clemson because I want to see turnover chain against the new and improved Clemson. See which one, if one of them gets tight, if one of them chokes, or if it's like, a classic, I guess, Miami Florida State game. Since Florida State sucks this year, we would instead just get it with Miami Clemson. And then 2 potential playoff games I would like to see are Miami Georgia, just because it would be Mark Richt against his old team.
Yeah.
And all that would play out. And then also I would really like to see Miami, Oklahoma, because I know they played a lot in big games in the 80s. And I would like to see Baker Mayfield join against the turnover chain defense. Yeah. And I feel like there's a strong chance we could get some sort of incident in that game.
What do we got this year? Do we got?
We're gonna get an incident the week or 2 leading up to that game. Like, guys are gonna be suspended or arrested. That's if it's Miami, Oklahoma, you can basically count on that. I think
that's true.
Is it Rose Bowl Sugar Bowl this year?
I think it is. Yeah,
it is. That is correct.
And really, there's no Rose Bowl team out there. Wisconsin, perhaps, for the Big Ten folks. And Alabama or SEC winner would probably take that Sugar Bowl.
Miami, Georgia, classic Rose Bowl game.
Oh, the best. Just the best. So, yeah, next week, not a great week. A good week to not be watching, perhaps. If you have to miss next week. Not a terrible week to do so. If Wisconsin does win out, I don't see him any higher than 3rd. I don't see him over Oklahoma, considering both of their big wins would be against Ohio State, and then Oklahoma has all these other wins against TCU and Oklahoma State. So I don't think they should be ahead of Oklahoma. I don't think they should be ahead of the ACC winner, and and they're not going to be ahead of Alabama. So if Wisconsin does get in, I'd say it's got to be a 4 seed. Would it bring you a lot of pleasure to see Alabama beat the shit out of Wisconsin? It would me. I know that much.
Oh yeah, sign me up. I mean, I just don't like the idea of them being anywhere near the playoff and them thinking that they're a national power. It's just it makes me upset even thinking about it. So if it means we're going to get Alabama to beat them, 72-0, yeah, great. But even that's probably a little too high.
If I'm completely honest, I would prefer they both lose and neither of them get in the playoff. That would make me much happier.
Very exciting. Auburn, 1 down, 2 to go. Honestly, for Auburn, it's 1 down, 1 to go because they're not losing to Georgia. So they
Prince, every few years or so, you hop on the Auburn bandwagon and things get really weird. Start working out in their favor.
I wear a jacket for a reason, Marcus. It's an Auburn jacket, folks.
It's a nice jacket.
War Eagle. War Eagle. Why? I don't know.
The problem is it's the wrong guy's jacket. It's Gene Chiswick's jacket. Right. And that means you're going to get fired next year, even if you win the title this year or 2 years from now. It's not Gus Malzahn's jacket, which is the problem. But
cold up there in Ames.
Gene Chiswick did win a national title.
Cam Newton won a national title.
It's all right though. If you wear the Gene Chiswick one, all you have to do is stop in and eat at a Waffle House every so often, since that's where Gus Malzahn eats after games each year. So that balances out then.
What's the South Dakota equivalent to Waffle House? Marlins?
Marlins, the only quality restaurant.
Is it that, or is it Cracker Barrel? Is that the South Dakota? Maybe.
Well, Marlins is I don't think there's any Marlins outside of South Dakota, is there?
I'll be honest, I don't know what Marlins is.
It's just this truck stop diner. We have one in Mitchell. There's a couple in Sioux Falls. There's one in T.
It's a poor man's Perkins.
But at a gas station, that's what makes it great.
Well, they're not all. Are they all at gas stations?
No, there's one in downtown Sioux Falls now. Yeah. But I think the rest of them are. So
good. Get your gas in, get your food. Double it up.
Get your omelet. Omelet to go.
Good. So college football, good half hour on that. Baseball note, Marcus. Been some rumblings. Twins are going after pitcher. Stacken's out here. Why? Because you got to keep an eye on that hot stove.
The literal stove.
I'm very intrigued by the rumors. Do you expect them to do something? They're going to do something, but do you expect us to be, ooh, look at this?
They're going to do something. I don't know how big it's going to be. If it's, I'm already blanking on this guy's name, but apparently he's a big-time pitching prospect, right?
He's a fucking 27-year-old. He's not a prospect.
The picture I saw of him was in some uniform I didn't recognize, and I'm like,
he plays for the Reds, the Cincinnati Reds.
It was like he was wearing a blue hat. I don't. He must have been in the World.
I didn't get a fucking Cuban hat. Do I gotta get my goddamn Cuban hat already?
Get your hat out. You have to forgive me if I wasn't, knee deep in Reds baseball this year.
Raisel Iglesias, a gentleman's name. He's a Cuban. He throws hard. He strikes out a bunch. Maybe walks a few more than you would like. But yeah, he would be good. He would be good to have on the good team.
Here's the thing. Enough people are saying he's good that I'm going to say he's good, and that I'm on board with them. That I'm on board with them trying to get him. I don't know how much they have to give up. Probably a fair amount. He's young. He's good. Strikes out a lot of guys. But this would be a worthwhile move. I mean, the pieces they had in the bullpen at the end of the year, you could kind of see it round into form. But I think everybody kind of agrees. Let's figure something out here. So I like the idea of them making a trade. There was also some rumors this week that they're flirting with bringing Kinsler back. I'm fine with that as long as he's part of a bigger picture here. If they're making this trade, they're bringing Kinsler back. You've got me listening. So
pitching, all about the pitching.
You need arms. The postseason taught us that. You need arms, and even the teams that had arms needed more arms.
You need home runs. You need home runs all the time.
Well, pitching's good too.
Pitching is good too. Yeah.
You need arms because if anything, when you start giving up runs, you just need to switch to a different arm. Then
that's right.
That's right.
It's even better when you can throw with both of your arms. It's even better. So yeah, something should happen this week as far as baseball signings. So that'll be very exciting. May have to even do a podcast in a couple weeks. So many baseball signings in the offing. Go Pirates. Charlie, what do you got going on there with the podcast and such?
Not too much. Let's see. We got to discuss the stuff. I know last week was like a week where, or no, sorry, I'm thinking wrong. This upcoming week, the next one we do, rare occurrence where all four of the teams we covered lost. So it will be a fairly melancholy episode. Let's see. USD got smoked by North Dakota State. Nebraska got smoked by Traxler's Gophers. Iowa got smoked by Wisconsin. And Iowa State, maybe better that they lost close, but maybe worse because that's just the kind of loss that sticks with you for a while where you think, oh my God, we were so close.
I will say I was watching a fair amount of the first half of that NDSU USD game, and Strevler was just running all over NDSU on the first drive, ended up getting a touchdown. I'm like, man, USD might have cracked something open on this defense, and then that was basically like the last highlight they had for the rest of the game. So USD's defense not good against quality opponents, and that I would hope maybe bodes well for SDSU and this being a decent game on Saturday when they meet in Vermillion, but who knows?
USD
Tough to play in Vermillion at the same time too, because I think since South Dakota State and USD rekindled the football rivalry, I think every time it's been in Vermillion, it's like gone down to the final minute.
Yeah, there was a couple years ago. Winston Wright had like a 75-yard pick six, but that was as USD was driving at the end to make something happen. So
USD would finish 7-4, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, the talker on the Sioux City Journal has been if 7-4 would be good enough for the Coyotes to get in with 3 straight losses to end the year.
They would get in, I believe. Would they have any good wins?
I mean, their best wins would be
against playoff teams.
Youngstown, who's not making the playoffs.
They beat Illinois State.
God, what happened to Youngstown? They just fell off a cliff.
They did. They had a couple bad losses. Illinois State, which as of now I don't think is a playoff team. They would have to be like that 6th team. I don't think the Valley's getting 6 in, and then the win they've held their whole season on Bowling Green and FBS win. So I think they're going to get in, even if SDSU beats them.
When SDSU
happen is that they can't afford to have Illinois State beat NDSU because then you've got Illinois State at 7 wins plus the head-to-head plus a win over NDSU. That would probably keep USD out in that scenario. So,
and South Dakota State really needs Illinois State to beat North Dakota State.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I mean, it would be for a share of the conference title, and SDSU would get the automatic bid.
And for seeding purposes.
Yes, for seeding purposes. The way they're projecting it now, it's actually better, though, because you've got SDSU like 6th or 7th or 5th or I don't know where they're at. But they would play the Jacksonville State winner in the quarterfinals. As long as you're not going to NDSU, they might, I like their chances to go play Jacksonville State.
How dare you? How dare you?
Actually, I guess that's a good point, Traxler. I've just been conditioned to assume that South Dakota State will be required to play North Dakota State in Fargo. I forget that it's possible that they might not because it's just never worked out that way thus far.
The good thing is that if you have USD involved now, USD might be the team that takes the pressure off. They've got to go play NDSU. It's hard to say. The other way they're projecting it is, USD this week. I think I saw somebody say USD plays Montana. Well, that game's going to be out there because Montana's going to win that bid, and then the winner will come to SDSU. So you could have the same matchup in the first week of December in Brookings. So,
not to be a wet paper towel, but would anything be more South Dakota State than, hey, we got what we wanted. We don't have to play North Dakota State. We got to buy, and then they lose at home the very first game.
I mean, they almost lost to Villanova last year, and I think it was 2 years ago they lost in the final week to Western Illinois. That cost them a seed, and then they had to go, I think, to Montana or wherever they had to go when they lost. So it's happened before. They damn near lost on Saturday to Illinois State. I mean, I know this is sacrilege to say, but for Winnicky being a great player, he was basically non-existent in that game yesterday. So he's got to get open. He's got like 400 yards receiving on the year. He's got a lot of touchdowns, but that is a little surprising.
We welcome Nathan Stacken to the room.
Thank you. Hello.
Hello.
Folks.
Any SDSU football thoughts? Because we really talk about them. They wrap up the season. I would say pretty significant game that they've got to win. Because if they don't, I don't even know if they get a top 8 seed then.
They won't. I don't think they will be. 8-3 won't be good enough. Yeah.
So they got to win this game if they want, a couple home playoff games here because.
Marcus, what did you say the projection was right now? The latest SDSU would not be playing NDSU?
They'd be in the
Right,
Armed Forces Bowl.
I forget which one. Mineral Water Bowl. Back to the Division II roots.
The roots.
Winnicky, for the record,
500 yards.
590 yards, 11
That's fine.
touchdowns this year.
That's fine. Goddard's
got the better numbers.
like 800
yards. Yeah.
The number 1 tight end in the class.
That's right.
Maybe only behind the Oklahoma tight end.
Blake Bell.
Let me pull this up. This is from Hero Sports. Take that for what it's worth.
The best in all your
they've
military sports.
They've
Best
got,
because they're the heroes.
They've got USD versus Montana, and then they've got SDSU as the 5 seed, and the winner of that game going to Brookings. And then Jacksonville State in that instance would be the 4 seed, and they've got North Dakota State as the 2, and they've got them playing the winner of Northern Arizona at Northern Iowa. So that's at least, if I don't think NDSU will be real happy if they've got to play Northern Iowa again. I can attest to that.
I was cheering for USD this week, and I would hope a lot of Jackrabbit fans were, because that would mean that this upcoming week's game would be for the Missouri Valley title. Having said that, I believe SDSU winning their last 5 or whatever. But you look at the wins, the pounding of Western Illinois. They beat North Dakota State. They squeaked by Illinois State. But if they can win somewhat convincingly over SD, shouldn't they be a potential top 4 seed?
Yes, they should be.
Okay.
I believe so.
Well, I don't think it's going to happen.
If North Dakota State loses, yes, but if they don't, then
Yes.
Right. I think if North Dakota State is still – North Dakota State, I think, is going to be a top 4 team. The question has been whether or not you're going to see
with Central Arkansas.
Central Arkansas move down, Jacksonville State move down.
Sam Houston State?
I think they're going to keep Sam Houston State probably not going to be seeded at this point. So I think the question – whatever puts SDSU furthest away from NDSU, I think is the right scenario for the Jacks.
Yep.
And I think in this scenario, James Madison's looked pretty good this year. They're probably going to be in the semifinals. But if you're that 4 or 5 seed and there is an upset early, you're probably hosting, in that semifinal round as well. So, top 4 seed is desirable, but I would guess it's going to be a tough spot for SDSU at this point. They probably need an Illinois State win. So,
that was going to be my next question. What odds are we giving Illinois State to pull off the upset against North Dakota State? Because they seem to have a pretty decent defense.
69%.
Nice. They had a good running game. They started some kid that they had never started before at quarterback, and he was pretty good. It was a little surprising that Illinois State deserted the run game in overtime and ended up taking a 42-yard field goal, and the kid missed it. So that was a little bit surprising. I would say the chances are pretty low. To me, I think the annual regular season loss that NDSU takes always stokes the bear, and I think they're going to be a tough out the rest of the way. So,
I think I said this last week. I'm going to say it again. How much would South Dakota State like to have back either that Northern Iowa loss or that Youngstown State loss right now?
Yeah, I would say the Northern Iowa one is the one they need to have back because they did not show up. And I realize Youngstown is probably the team that's not going to make the playoffs, but
Youngstown was the one that they should have. I mean, they should not have beat Northern Iowa because they just got pounded.
Well, my thing is, I mean,
For a better, Northern Iowa would be a lot better win.
Youngstown State kept the ball for 45 minutes, and that's more. To me,
Boy, they had
that's
a
more
fumble.
the
You had a fumble at the goal line.
They did.
And you lose by what? One score or whatever it was.
9, I think it was 17-9 or something.
No, it was like 19-7. I thought it was
19-7. There you go.
Yeah, well, and Goddard fumbled it on the first possession of the game. I think it was they were inside the 10 at that point. And but Youngstown State lost to North Dakota State in overtime too. So they were hanging with the big boys for a while, and then it just all went south after that.
What church you got on?
Wait, hold on a second. You trying to tell me that a Bo Pelini coach team had some hype, and then all of a sudden the season got hard and things fell apart? That doesn't sound right.
Brings back to the days of Nebraska football.
What's your sweatshirt here?
It is property of the Vikings.
Portland State, I see. Already hard on Portland State. Fuck, we're not even a week into the goddamn college basketball season.
Well, maybe I'm loving some
Some who?
That can't be it.
Second, as your self-appointed legal counsel, it's probably not a good idea on a nationally televised thing to show that you stole something that's the property of the Vikings.
Oh, that's true. Thank you, legal counsel. Also, Cleveland State. Big Cleveland State guy.
Viking v. Viking.
Big Sweeter Augustana fan, too.
Take that red off.
Take off it's probably purple now. Take off that fucking purple, you son of a bitch. There you go. Stack, and any college football thoughts? A lot of games of importance this week. I thought Alabama-Mississippi State was a great game. Thought Oklahoma State, Iowa State broke my goddamn heart. And then you had Miami just trounced the hell out of Notre Dame. So we kind of broke it down. 8 teams left in the mix. Huh?
And Auburn wiping the floor with Georgia.
1 down, 1 to go, men. 1 down, 1 to go. So you got 8 teams left. I think you got 3 from the SEC. You got 1 from the Big 12. You got 2 ACC teams left. You got 2 Big 10 teams left. I think Ohio State, if they went out, and they're probably right there. Where do you see this going here? Because I've got, I hope Auburn gets there, obviously, but let's say you have Alabama 1, Clemson 2, you have Oklahoma 3, Wisconsin 4, something like that.
No, I would probably put Miami at 4 over Wisconsin.
Oh, really?
I would.
At the end of the year, at the very end of the year.
Oh, well, yes. If
Miami
wins out, if Miami wins out, they're in the playoff.
But
if
they
Clemson
lose.
wins out, they're in the playoff. If then you're going to have Alabama in there, but presumably. But I think some people maybe aren't even looking at the potential that Alabama not only loses to Auburn,
They don't get in.
and then would they
They wouldn't get in. Auburn,
No, okay.
Auburn,
Then they
Alabama decides who wins the conference, basically.
All right, so there's a potential that I guess Georgia wouldn't be able to sneak in with 2 losses, would they now?
Nope. Alabama or Auburn and Ohio State are the only 2 lost teams that have a chance.
Yeah, and I don't see Ohio State getting in.
To be fair, I think Pac-12 teams could get in, but it would require like FCS losses to SEC teams.
Yeah.
Stuff that the odds of happening are microscopically small.
Yeah, I guess right now, so I guess I will put Oklahoma, Clemson, Alabama, and
Wisconsin.
fuck, sure, why not? God, it's god-awful playoff. That would be just awful.
Ohio State. Ohio State.
I don't want them in there. I don't
Well,
want
then
them
they get then Wisconsin's gonna get in. You don't fucking want Wisconsin in, do you?
I can't wait. I'm putting all the confidence points on Alabama, Wisconsin.
Wow. There you go.
It'll be fun if we get the 3rd straight year where a Big Ten team gets shut out in the playoffs.
That would be fun.
That'd be great.
That would be outstanding.
Great stuff.
Apparently, there was an not an epic, but a great onside kick by Boise State last
I don't
night.
even want to hear it.
Nobody saw it because it was on in the middle of the night and it was
Boy.
on CBS Sports Network.
Yeah.
Bad scheduling, Mountain West and ESPN.
It was like
We're watching-
midnight, and the game is like,
watching Wyoming Air Force instead of that game.
it was like midnight, and they still had 10 minutes left in the third. I'm like, I can't go with
No,
this.
I hate to say it. I think I maybe admitted it a couple weeks ago. I've been giving up on these late games on Saturday nights. The last few weeks they haven't been any good, and or they've been on a channel I don't get. And I've watched. You've already watched football for 12 straight hours. So at that point,
If the games are good, that's one thing. If the continent's
Right.
playing, if the fucking continent's playing, then maybe we make a fucking exception. But the continent wasn't on.
if Rod Gilmore can't shut up about some left tackle, then yeah, I might have to
Run it behind the continent.
4th and inches from the other team's 35. Too dangerous to go for it. You got to run here. That's Rod Gilmore summed up in one sentence.
That is.
Rod Gilmore, late career resurgence for Rod Gilmore. It's very exciting. College basketball has started. We are all right. He's
Yes.
excited about it.
Very excited. Whoa!
Two days in. What do we got here? We got more water. Good. 2 days in.
Second, if you want to lose like an hour just playing around with college basketball stuff, look at the Reddit college basketball.
Oh my God,
Imperial
that's going to be
app.
amazing.
You will lose your damn mind, Stacken.
Explain
How much
this to
fun
Mr.
that's gonna
Stacken.
be. All right, so Stacken, they do this with football, with FBS football. They're doing it with basketball, Division I guess, this year too.
I don't know how.
They
but-
take a map of the United States and break it down to the closest Division I team to each county, and whichever team's closest to that county, it gets shaded in like that color of their team.
Yep.
And then it's basically like if you think of, old school, like 2,000 years ago, Roman times. If you play a team and you beat them, you get their land. And then it's just the map changes with you win. And if you lose, that team gets your land. And then you don't have any land when you lose, but if you beat someone that has land, you take their land then. So if you go undefeated, which, in football teams will go undefeated, I think it's safe to say no one's going to go undefeated the whole year in basketball. There's going to be like massive shifts and changes and stuff.
Awesome.
And our Jackrabbits are actually on one, and as long as they win a few games to start the year, they can maybe pick up some land and do some fun
So
stuff.
are they picking up the land in North Dakota by beating Mary today?
Division I. Division I.
Division I.
Okay, so they won't be able to gain anything with presentation coming at the end of the year.
They have Wyoming.
That's right.
They have Wyoming.
Well, to be fair, if you're a Division II or lower team and you beat a Division I team, you can take their land.
Okay.
But
Not in the basketball version though. I don't think.
Really.
In the football one, you can. FCS can move in and take the ground, but I think the rule is in the basketball one that it's got to be D1 games only.
that's just probably true. With so many more teams, it would get way too complicated if you start doing that for basketball.
It's very exciting. I just sent that to you, Mr. Stacken.
Very good. Very good. Thank you.
I believe the college football one's we're going to be in Wisconsin territory, so that's not great. We were in
That's bad.
Iowa territory. Now it's Wisconsin territory. College basketball this week. What's the game Tuesday? Kentucky, Kansas, and then Duke, Michigan State.
Duke.
Sign me up.
I'm all on Michigan State this year. Bridges comes back for his sophomore year. I think that surprised a lot of people, including his
Including
head coach.
himself?
Yeah, but maybe himself too. So I like Michigan State to make it to the Final Four this year.
Do you have your picks? Do you have your picks?
Final Four picks yet or no?
I don't. If you want to share, sure.
Okay. I'll go with
Wichita State.
Kentucky. Utah State, yes.
No,
Wichita.
Wichita State.
I want to pick Wichita State very badly, but I don't think I can. I was on this train a couple of years ago, and
Now I'm back
they
off.
failed. And I had to take a year off just to recover.
So I jumped
and,
on.
Yeah, and you just kept the seat warm.
Now you're back on. Now I'm off.
Yeah, I don't know why you can't stay on with me. Is this like a one person?
There's only room for one, yeah.
I don't think that. This is just ridiculous.
It says
That's the
occupant.
moped.
Occupancy. It's occupied.
Oh, okay.
No occupancy.
We don't want OSHA getting in here.
No.
Is that what I'm understanding?
Yes.
Okay, fair enough.
So you had Kentucky,
Yep. So I will go.
Michigan State.
I had this at the beginning of the year. Now I kind of forget who I picked. Oh, Arizona. I don't know why, but
The Villanova
I'll
of the
try
West.
Sean Miller.
The Villanova of the West.
Yeah, I'll try and see what Sean Miller can do this year. And then
Sweat through his shirt again. How about
Wait.
that?
Prince, can we remember this quick? There's two teams I'm never picking to go to the Final Four again.
Arizona.
One of them, I think
Villanova.
I was Villanova and Arizona.
It was Arizona. Yeah.
Arizona was me, and I think Villanova was multiple of us. Even though Villanova did win that title, I'm never picking Arizona or Villanova again until they prove that they can get back there.
Yeah, it's definitely Arizona. Arizona, just annoying.
Like 3 of the last 5 years, I've been like, you know what? This is the year for the Wildcats, and just, sorry. What were you saying, Stan?
no, I think that I don't like necessarily because I agree with you. The history's there with Sean Miller and everything like that. I mean, they completely underwhelm time and time again. But the one thing I will say with them, who they get, Triers, believe he's back for another season. So I think that helps. They brought in is Shaq's kid coming in there this year? Or is that next year?
Probably next.
I can't remember, but he's pretty good. I think this is just the year that they can do it. And it especially helps with LeAngelo Ball in jail in China. You don't even have to worry about it. You don't even have to worry about UCLA now. Oregon would have been a Final Four team if all of their pieces had come back, but Dylan Brooks and
You know where Dylan Brooks is playing now? You know where Dylan Brooks is playing?
he's playing. Yes, he's playing with the Memphis Grizzlies.
Ah, get on board, folks. Get on board.
That's the one reason. That's the one reason I will cheer for Memphis is because of Dylan Brooks. But going Arizona, going Kentucky, I'm going Michigan State, and then I think I'm gonna go with the Florida Gators.
Good. Fine by me. I should have something in a couple days here. I'll look it over. Should have had something this week. Market, South Dakota State.
Utah Valley,
Huh?
my sleeper of the year. They just
Who?
almost beat Kentucky. But
Who?
I said Utah Valley, but Utah Valley.
Marcus, who's my sleeper?
Xavier.
Temple.
Oh, man.
We're talking about college basketball here?
Yeah.
I'm blanking. I'm going to blank on it.
Nevada?
No, Nevada. Yes, Wolfpack, 2 words.
Nevada?
Wolfpack is 2 words. And they got a big game coming up, right? Tomorrow night, Monday night.
Rhode Island,
Island.
Nevada at 1:30 in the morning. So be on the lookout for that. Probably going to have to miss that, but be a good win. Be a good win for me.
And that would normally be on the night of the college basketball marathon. They're not doing that this year.
Fuck
Kind of
that,
sucky.
ESPN. This is bullshit.
He's upset.
And so that Rhode Island game will have to fill in.
Sure. Absolutely. Expectations for the Brookings squad this year. Women got a nice win today in overtime. They got some dandies coming up this year. The men didn't look good. We'll see what they do. But
Start slow, finish strong. Does that sound like
something like
the
that.
recipe we're going to use?
Don't make shots. Apparently, is the recipe this year. Don't make the shots. And hope the other team makes less shots.
Point shooting was a little better through 2 games.
Yeah, they made 3 2-pointers and 14 3-pointers. Like, goddamn, if you're going to make them, I guess, make the long ones. But that's not a recipe for success. They play Kansas on Friday, so cover the 30 points if you would. I mean, the women be a big disappointment if they don't make the tournament. And the men, I mean, USD's pretty good. I'm thinking we're going to get a rematch of the great semifinal last year. What was it? It'd be 3 years in a row now. We had the quarterfinals last or 2 years ago. USD, SDSU. Quarterfinals or semifinals. We had the great semifinal.
It was Denver, right? It was Denver 2 years ago.
Something like that.
In the semis, yeah.
Yep. And then we had the great semifinal game last year. And I'm thinking that's going to be the final this year. And again, if they're ever going to sell that place out for a basketball game, that is the game. So they've come close. They've had about 10,000, which is a November SDSU football crowd. So I'm thinking we're looking at the South Dakotas in the Summit League Championship. Somehow it gets better every year. I don't know how they do it, but I'm thinking that's what I'm thinking. Is that what you're thinking?
I would agree with you. I think it'll probably be similar to last year in the sense that they're going to have to take some time to figure things out.
Why?
What's that?
New players or what?
Well, yeah, new players. I mean, you're already looking at some of these guys they got on their team. I guess the Brandon Key kid, he's one of the transfers, came from a community college in Tennessee, but
he's pretty good.
Everybody's talking about David Jenkins.
Yeah, this fucker from Washington scores like, 16, 18 in his debut?
Yeah,
Holy hell.
Looks like he's good, and if he's a three-point shooter, that will help.
And he's a freshman.
Whatever takes pressure off Dom is good. I think they'll be better defensively. It just seems like they're probably a little bit more physically prepared defensively, and that's a good sign that they need to get on track. And I think I would agree with you. They may not be the number one seed going into that tournament. I think USD, like you said, going to be pretty good. But I would expect that to be the championship game one way or the other. And should be exciting. At some point, SDSU is not going to always hold the upper hand over USD. But I think for another year, SDSU is going to be the team that represents this league in the NCAAs. I don't know who else from the league you put in.
Oh, for the what? Are we talking women now or what?
I'm talking men. I'm talking men's basketball.
I think USD SDSU is a toss-up. I mean, it's.
I would agree this year. I think USD and SDSU are in a class all their own in the Summit League, and then it's everyone else. But I'm in agreement with you guys that they're going to meet in the championship game. And I like USD this year, and I'll take SDSU to win the Summit League. I'm picking USD this year because the only person they lose is Flack, I believe, or Trey Dickerson. He went to
Three Dickerson.
He went to Georgetown, but I mean they still have Mooney, and he is a badass mofo. I mean he can make threes all over. So give me Matt Mooney and USD reluctantly this year, but I will then put it in ink. Sharpie it. SDSU is winning the Summit League next year in Dom's senior season.
I don't think Dom's going to be there next year. So
I think he will be.
I think the golden rule in Summit League men's basketball is best player is the best team. Dom's the best player. SDSU will find a way to get it done.
I hope you're
I
right.
guess since everyone's making predictions, I'll also go with South Dakota State over USD. Crin says it gets better each year, so I'm going to say Dom sprains his ankle on the opening round, misses the second round in a close win, and then does the Willis Reed comes out, and then plays hurt to win. That's how they beat USD.
Will Charlie make a re-debut at the Summit League this year?
Yes.
Oh, look at this. Look at this. Mother F. Big news. Big news stacking. React to the news.
I mean, this is breaking. This is what we
literally
this is why we're all here.
Happened.
There's no question about it to pull a Mark Schlereth. That this is some excellent news here. Let's just we'll spend so much time talking about this and less time talking about other more significant news.
If I can address the women's part of the conversation that you brought
hold
up.
on. For Dom, I mean, Dom's got to be a first-round pick to come out.
Right, and I don't know if he will be, but
I mean, he's got to be.
Right, and I get the sense that he's reaching a point where what else can he really accomplish at SDSU?
Win a tournament game.
Well, yes, but
I think he's coming back. I think he's coming back.
Okay, well,
I think Traxler brings up a good point though. Like if they win the conference tournament again, and he's the player of the year again, even if they lose in the first round of the NCAA tournament, are you really going to be like, okay, let me come back and play on freshman mode all over again and torch all these other teams in my conference that aren't good enough to guard me at all?
I think he would have to have a pretty good game against whoever they would play in the first round for that to happen. people will say, "Oh yeah, he scored 17 points against Gonzaga last year," but he didn't shoot very well at all. I mean,
No.
he had to really grind for that. So I mean, I think it would depend on how he plays against that said first round team.
Yeah, well,
For him to, I mean, if he scores 40 and SDSU wins the first round game, then yeah, I would say he's probably not coming back. But
we'll see
until that
what
happens,
we'll see what he
At
does this year. He could probably use another year.
at least the Billustrator had him on guys that we'll be talking about at the end of the year that probably aren't at this time. And people are already saying that he could potentially push second team All-American.
Yeah.
I mean, he's already on like fourth and fifth teams preseason. This is the real deal. And I mean, I guess how lucky are we to have seen
Blessed,
Nate Wolters?
Stacking. We're blessed.
We're blessed. # blessed. Yes.
Yes.
But we never thought that there would be another player like Nate Wolters, at least not for a while. And then SDSU gets Mike Daum. I mean, it's just it's really quite staggering that a mid-major team could get the talent like Wolters and turn them into potential pro prospects.
And it's not like they were big. I mean, they were not big prospects to begin with. It was all right. Here's a nice player, and.
But don't you think that can help for
bring
the
guys
future
in,
of the
sure.
program too? That that they can develop and find these guys and say, hey, yeah, I mean, we might be a mid-major, but we can get you a shot at the pros potentially.
Funny side note, after Walters left and Dykstra was back, I remember thinking, Dykstra might be the best player they have for the next 5 to 10 years.
Mm-hmm.
And it obviously did not work out that way.
Potentially. Dom better than Walters. There we go.
Didn't we? Yeah, we had this question came up last year.
Last year, and I was booed out of the fucking room. Just goddamn.
I agreed with you last year.
I'm going to find
wasn't
this.
as strong of a case as you were.
I'm going to
and I
find
would
this.
say it seemed like everyone else was much more.
Like, what the fuck are you talking about? I'm going to find. Yeah, I'm going to see. It was early on last year, and it was like what? And then about 2 months later, I was like, well, okay, whatever. So there we go. The women, Marcus. The women. I mean, I think this is the very talented team. Maybe the most talented team until next year's team.
Yeah, I would tend to agree with you. They got a good win today, like you mentioned, at George Washington, a team that also was in the WNIT last year, but had made the NCAA's 2 years in a row before that. They've got a big game with Green Bay at the end of the week out there.
That's a loss.
That was the one. I don't know if they win that. Probably not. But
Aaron Rodgers isn't playing, so they got a shot.
That's true. The Packers. They play North Carolina State, Charlotte on a neutral court. I would expect those to be wins. And then they get Northern Iowa, Louisville, and Oklahoma all at home, all right in a row.
Got to win one.
You got to win one of those. I think they can win two. I don't think they'll win all three. The only other road game that I think is maybe a trip-up game in the non-conference is Drake. And,
They'll be Drake. They'll be Drake.
Yeah, Drake, I think, made the NCAA.
They won the Mo Valley last year.
Right, they were pretty good. I don't know how good they are this year. This really should be no more than 6 losses in the regular season type team, I think. So
I would say 3 or 4.
Oh.
Well, that's I would like to say that too, but I know that this never seems to go that way. So
because on the women's side, at least in the Summit League, is it going to be IUPUI and Western
USD.
Illinois?
IUPUI ain't in the league anymore, so they're out of the picture.
Yeah. Oh my God. What the hell?
I think it'll be USD again.
Western, USD, they're the two main competitors. I think people are a little too high on Western. SDSU is a preseason favorite, and I think SDSU should be fine. This, like Corinne said, this is their most talented roster. I'm surprised that they're starting Maya Summit from the get-go. I didn't think that was going to happen.
She's great.
And Macy Miller is playing. I mean, she's got 2 20-point games right out of the gate.
She's
so that's
great.
That's really impressive. So.
What was the one season? Was it 08-09?
Yeah.
Was this team going to have a chance to push that team as the best SDSU team ever?
I'd be very disappointed if in these next 2 years they don't win at least one tournament game. They should have
I'd
beat.
agree with that.
Yeah, they should have beat Stanford 2 years ago. Should have got to the Sweet 16 again. So yeah, Sweet 16 would be preferable here, but they got to win at least one tournament game here these next 2 years because you've got Giebert and Miller are probably 2 of the 10 best players ever for them. So if you got that, you should do that. And we'll see what Maya Selland does. She might be in that discussion because I think she'll be really, really good. So maybe Stacken will be talking. Maya Selland is to Macy Miller like Dom is to Walters. We never thought we'd see another. And here she is, boys. Here she is.
That's I'm fine with that. I mean, are we kind of pushing this like with Workentine as well?
It's Tegan Larson.
Okay.
Tegan Larson. Big hopes from AJ on Tegan Larson.
Biggest upset so far in men's college basketball. Don't know if any of you saw this,
Indiana?
but Archie Miller's Indiana squad lost by 21 at home to Indiana State. So
Was Larry Bird involved in the game?
he might have been. I can neither confirm nor deny this at this time, but yeah, it sounds like that was a great decision. Move on from Tom Crean and lose by 21 to Indiana State of all teams.
Are we positive that Tom Crean didn't coach one last game for the Hoosiers?
You know what would have been funny is if
This just really seems like the kind of game Tom Crean would have lost.
It does. It does. I don't believe he did, though.
Charlie, do you know what 2 words you used to describe Mike Dom when you saw him for one of the first times? 2 words.
Is it holy shit?
You would be 100% correct, yes. He
Nice.
said, holy shit, look at this guy. This guy's pretty good. So, yeah, this goes very exciting. You said you wish you could have had Dom play back in 2012 or 2013. Well, there we go.
That sounds like something I would say, wishfully hoping that Walters and Dom could have played on the same team together, and they could have made an Elite Eight run.
Do you envision your Summit League time being the weekend, the whole thing, probably just the weekend? What?
I think more likely just the weekend.
The weekend.
Possible the whole thing, but more likely just the weekend.
Likely the Sunday China buffet at 4:30 in the afternoon. So there you go. just so you're prepared. You know
what? If I do Chinese food, I prefer the buffet. So that
Yes.
works.
Can I just make a request that I don't want to go with the loud assholes?
Well, that's part of the fun going with the loud assholes.
I know, but I see that.
Hey, I'm going to drink 2 gallons of pop. Oh, this is bullshit pop. I'm not paying for it. Even though I
I
drank
just
it.
want to say that I see those jackasses standing in that far section at the football games, and I'm like, I don't want to be doing that. So
I think you'll be proud of me. I was offered an invite on Friday afternoon to go to said game. I said no. I said nah. I got to watch my Iowa State club piss it down their legs.
Also, for the record, I most likely will be down there, but
Not working.
no, I'll be working.
Oh, you'll be working.
I'll be working.
But there was a.
Well, but if baby needs are needed up here, then I will have to decline.
Wow, this.
Is there a special bring your child to the Summit League tournament day and teach them how to run things?
you're on the copy machine.
I will make sure that they better know how to spot right from the get-go. How do you input a 3-pointer?
Why?
Why? There you go.
I know a certain doctor who could probably look at your kid.
Oh my God! No way. Nope. Not he'll pinch all sets of cheeks. That would be
Asses and face.
I would know that
Asses
for a
and
fact.
face. Very good.
Yeah.
I have a trivia
Also,
question.
Fort Wayne
Yes.
may be a team called Defiance. I defy you to tell me where Defiance is located at.
In the United States. Boom.
Well, thank you.
Who beat them?
Did you all hear the news about Fort Wayne? They're changing their colors. They're changing their name.
Yeah, what are they doing here?
They're literally going to be the PFW. Apparently, they're getting rid of the Indiana part.
We've been calling them the PFW for years. That's what they got to be.
And they're going as Purdue Fort Wayne now, and they're changing
That's
their
dumb.
colors to black and gold. So I assume the Mastodon's dead. I don't know.
When they leave the conference,
They better not kill Dandy Don.
when
How can anybody be sure? So many things are changing.
they leave the conference next year, that'll be great. So
That is, yeah.
Okay.
I'm telling you right now, we're on a collision course for the Summit League and the Missouri Valley to merge. Makes too much sense.
Missouri Valley needs to fall apart a little bit more. I understand where you're coming from, but they got to have a little more pain in the valley.
I got one more suck it from the Jaguars, so that's fine. I was good.
Yeah, the one last suck it.
You know what? I hope Sacking's idea works out as is, so we can have like a 24 team conference, however big it can be right now.
You play everybody once.
And just like, yep, conference tournament starting 6 weeks before the end of the regular season to make sure we get all this in here.
Well, I mean, right now there are 10 teams, and there are 8 right now in the Summit. I guess North Dakota's coming in, but if you get rid of IUPUI, you're still at 18-team conference. It's not ideal, but maybe send Evansville packing.
No, we got to keep the Purple Aces. No,
The Aces, they got to be in.
Drake can get fucked. They can get out of here.
No.
Edwardsville can get fucked. They can get out of here.
How about ship Valparaiso just got in?
Valpo's, they're
They're part of the
You got to keep all of them, like Missouri Valley teams that are in there for both football and basketball. So we can't kick out Indiana State or Southern Illinois, Missouri State, Illinois State, or Northern Iowa. They all have to stay.
You know, just did
Unless
kick out
one
Northern Iowa right now. Why not?
You and I would have some problems.
You and I would have
Charlie and
some
Stacking, a fight to the death. Dom maybe leads the country in scoring. We'll see what happens there. And
it can happen.
maybe a lead in free throws. Most free throws. He shoots a lot of them. So here we go.
Get to the stripe.
Trivia question. Or you pick the questions.
I got to run, guys. Sorry, bad time. But
He's going to
we'll
leave us. It's a stat. We are going to apparently have we are going to have an issue between Sack and Charlie then. I'll give you 5.
We'll have to use your creativity to figure a way through it.
5 chances here. 5 chances. Who wants to go first?
Stacking can go first.
I will. Well, thank you. I was going to say you can go first, but you and I will accept your draw.
You're a soon-to-be father, so I want you to go first.
Thank you.
NFL.
Okay.
You name. Don't have to give me the year. Just give me like the Super Bowl you want to pick, and then you have to tell me the teams that team beat to get there.
Like in the playoffs or the whole season?
Playoffs.
Ooh, I like this.
And
I'm
I don't have
probably
to.
not going to win, but I still like this.
And I don't have to worry about excluding your favorite team because they don't get there. So it's good. It's a shot. So like you don't have to necessarily tell me the year, but if you say, all right, the Packers Chiefs Super Bowl 1, I want to go Packers Chiefs.
Let's go the Rams Super Bowl.
Rams in 01.
Yep.
Okay.
So believe the Patriots only had to play 2 teams.
Hold on. What are you doing here?
What?
What team are you picking?
The Patriots Rams Super Bowl.
What team are you picking? Just one of the teams.
I'm sorry. I'm picking the Patriots.
Patriots. Okay, 2001 Patriots, right?
Yep.
Okay.
So I believe they only had to beat 2 teams, and it was Oakland and Pittsburgh.
That's correct. Charlie.
So does Stacking just get 1 point, or do you get
Just get
points
1
for each one you guess?
1 point.
Okay. So you want to pick teams that had a bye and only played 2 games because it's easier to remember that.
Preferably.
Let's see. I'm trying to think of some ones that would make this because a lot of them I can remember one, but I can't remember both of the teams they played. Let's say. Let's go with the year the Ravens beat the 49ers in the Super Bowl.
Okay.
For the Ravens.
The 2012 season.
I will guess they beat the Patriots and the Steelers.
They had to beat the Colts, Broncos, and Patriots.
Oh, man, they didn't even have a bye. God, I am not off to a good start.
ND Stack and Blogspot.com won. Charlie Hildebrand.
So is this excluding last year's or?
If you want to go jump on last year, by all means. Jump on.
Trying to think. Yeah, let's go last year. And I will take the Patriots,
Okay,
beat the Texans, and the Steelers.
that'd be correct.
I will go with the 2008, the Giants beating the Patriots
The first time.
the first time.
Okay.
And I will do it for the Giants. In the NFC title game, they beat the Packers.
Mm-hmm.
The week before that, they beat the Cowboys.
Mm-hmm.
The week before that, I think they beat the Buccaneers.
Bang! A three banger for
All on
Hildebrand.
the road, too.
Look at this. Boom, 2-1 to keep him in the mix.
Let's go the Saints Colts Super Bowl.
It's a shame, Sack, and you're going to a dark place.
I know.
To a real dark place.
This isn't Detroit, man. This is the Super Bowl. So we will pick the Saints, who had to take down the Cardinals and the Vikings because Brett Favre. Just yuck.
Can you just imagine who's going to throw the interception this year? Keenum or Bridgewater? Who's it going to be?
All right, did you discuss this already? Because I have some thoughts on it.
Nope. We'll discuss.
We'll get into that later.
Sure.
It doesn't matter right now.
In January. We'll get to it in January 20th.
Sure.
Sure.
Okay. Those were correct, though, right?
Those were correct,
Cardinals
yes.
and-
What was that, Kurt Warner?
That would have been Kurt Warner's final season, I believe.
Has any team beat two quarterbacks, maybe even three quarterbacks older than that, for Christ's sake? A mid-30s Peyton Manning, a 40-year-old Favre, and who the fuck knows how old Kurt Warner was at that time?
That's a very interesting point there.
My heavens. Charlie.
All right, for the season, I think it was the 06 season, the year the Colts beat the Bears.
Colts beat the Bears.
I know the Colts beat 3, and I don't remember the first one, but I'm going to try to guess. I know they beat the Patriots in the AFC title game,
They did.
and they beat the Ravens the week before that.
They did.
I'm going to guess
Can you
in 06,
pull off another one?
could it be... who would it have been? Would it be the Pittsburgh Steelers?
The Chiefs.
It was the Chiefs.
Kansas City Chiefs. Stacking.
Okay, let's pick. I'm going to show some of these ones here. Let's go with the Panthers Broncos Super Bowl.
Okay.
I'll pick the Panthers. And they had to beat the Cardinals in the NFC Championship game. And in the divisional playoff game, it's going to annoy the fuck out of me if I can't get this one. Yeah, well, because why would I pick it? But, They had to beat. This is so riveting here. I can tell it here. Excited by it. They beat Seattle. Seattle in the divisional round.
They did. They were ahead by a bunch of points, and it came down to an extra point.
Yep.
Charlie. 2-0.
Just for stacking, because I know he'll love this, I will go with the year that Aaron Rodgers and the Packers beat the Steelers, which I think was 2010.
Yes, 2010 season.
I will do it for the Packers. The Packers defeated the Bears in the NFC title game. They beat the Falcons the week before that.
And
I think in the first round, they beat the Michael Vick Philadelphia Eagles.
Charlie Hildebrand, he likes the 3, boys. He got it again. Bang. Yes. One more for stacking.
I will go with the Cardinals-Steelers Super Bowl.
Okay.
I believe the Cardinals only had to beat 2 teams. It was the Eagles in the NFC Championship game and the Packers in the divisional playoffs.
It was the Eagles, Panthers, and Falcons.
Oh,
They were 9-7 that year. 9-7.
okay. So that was Matt Ryan's rookie year. They beat him. And who was the second team?
Carolina.
They went on the road to beat Carolina. Okay.
Yes.
Because dang it. Okay.
Well, you got 4. Charlie's got, what Charlie get? 2? You got 1 more to go?
I'm going to attempt the year the Patriots and the Eagles played in the Super Bowl. I think it was the 2004 season.
Okay.
I'm going to do it for the Eagles, not for the Patriots.
Okay.
Because I think the Eagles only played 2 games. And I think... Was it the Falcons and the Vikings they played?
Yes. Very good.
First year of college, I remember watching the Eagles and the Vikings play and being the only person who was not a Vikings fan. It was very odd. It was a strange time.
Go back to the college years. There you go. Nathan Stacken, do you have thoughts on this quarterback situation?
I don't see how you can just put Bridgewater in at this point with the way Keenum's played. He had a couple of bad throws today.
Oh, yes. Yes.
With those interceptions. But leading up to those interceptions, he had a perfect passer rating. I mean, Thielen is a freaking machine, but he had a nice deep ball to him, a nice deep ball to Stephon Diggs. So, unfortunately, the 2 interceptions now does bring into question about what Zimmer's going to do, and he seems, they said it multiple times during the telecast that he was pretty defiant in saying that Bridgewater will play, but until Keenum's play warrants a change, you can't take him out at this point. The fact that the Vikings had 38 points, had to sweat it out with Washington, that's embarrassing to the defense. I don't know if it was just that Everson Griffin wasn't playing today, but
how did Washington score one of those touchdowns?
Well, a short field off of an interception.
Because the quarterback threw an interception and they were out at the 1. So defense gave up 23 points?
Sure.
I mean,
sure, yeah.
I can live with it. Sure.
So, but I mean, Keenum threw 4 touchdowns, over 300 yards. I just don't think you can take him out until the play warrants it. And because we don't know what Teddy's going to be like when he comes back. I really hope that he is as good as he was leading up to the injury. But right now, you got to keep Keenum in until his play warrants the need to change.
And I got a feeling that's coming pretty soon.
I unfortunately, I do too. But I mean, I just would hope that you won't do it because he seems to have some really good chemistry going right now with the guys. Not saying that Bridgewater won't, but
here's the thing: if Keenum plays well, then they're going to be winning games, and he's going to be the quarterback. So that's a good thing.
Yep.
And if he's not, then they'll put in somebody else, and we'll see what happens.
Right.
You got to find a way to trade one of those guys for a first-round draft pick. Who needs a quarterback?
Cleveland? Now you want to give up another one, Cleveland?
And Yeah, get short, fleece someone for
Fuck
a
it.
first-round draft pick. On one of
What
those two.
they were willing to give up what, a second rounder for AJ McCarron? Good lord.
And a third round.
Fuck. I'll take that for.
That second and the third rounder. But
I heard.
You'd get 3 first-round picks for Keenum then.
I saw Bill Cowher after that game say something about like franchise quarterback, or they found their quarterback of the future. Like, what the fuck?
Who, the Vikings?
Case Keenum. He's 20. What is he? 29.
He's gonna.
Maybe he is Charlie as an outsider here. Maybe Case Keenum's one of these guys that's a late bloomer. But I've seen this dog and pony show many a time where a random fucking guy comes on and does very well, and then next year we're up to another random guy. I mean,
I think Case Keenum's a guy you like as your backup quarterback. If he's your starter long term, you need to find a better starter.
Yep. I'm in agreement there. I'm not saying that he is the starter for the future.
Yeah. I mean, if you want to make the playoffs, you don't want Case Keenum as your quarterback.
But until his play warrants him getting benched, and right now it's not, then he's got to stay in there. But you do make the point, Chris, that it kind of, this revolving door.
This happens every year. Every year this happens.
Well, remember, back in, when they had Brad Johnson, and then Brad Johnson went down, and then Randall Cunningham came in for that great year, and then Cunningham sucked, so they bring in Jeff George.
And he does great.
Yeah, he does great things. And then
Gus Frerotte.
Gus Frerotte. Then Dante Culpepper.
Todd Bauman he played 3 games, and one of them was great.
Tavares Jackson.
Maybe that's where we stop the chain right there. That's it.
Well, I mean, Culpepper was that franchise quarterback there for a while.
Yeah.
Between 98 or even if you want to go 97 with Brad Johnson to whenever Culpepper started that regime. Look at just the number of different quarterbacks, and unfortunately Spurgeon Wynn is going to be in that mix, which is awful. But
they were all good because they had the best receiver of all time. So that was good.
Right, that helps. I mean,
they had Randy Moss too.
Oh, look at this guy!
Randy Moss is better than Chris Carter.
I know, there are just a lot of weapons right now for this Vikings offense, and you have to look at the offensive line too. I mean, Keenum's mobile. How many sacks has Keenum taken this year? Like 5, maybe?
Yep, that's what they said.
Bradford was sacked 5 times against the Bears in the first half.
I always wondered how many times a one-legged man would get sacked in a game, and it appears it was 5.5. So that appears to be the answer.
But this game against the Rams this week is absolutely huge, and I don't think many people no one saw this coming when the schedule first came out, that these teams would both be 7-2.
Preview of the NFC Championship game.
Nah.
No, I think the Eagles are involved in that.
That's probably true.
Yeah, my big question was the offensive line this year, and they are, instead of bad, now they are average, and average is good enough. Running game was good enough. They're good. Metrics say they're about in the middle of the pack, which just watching them, you would think, fuck, this is like the best offensive line of all time compared to what it was last year. So that's good.
I was very disappointed that Washington's offensive line was all intact this week, because I really wanted to see someone go against Turnstile Clemmings and back Kirk Cousins at least a half dozen times.
Another guy that I don't know how he has a job in football. Really don't know how that works. So, well, you got the Rams next week. Already beat the Saints. Saints, hell of a surprise. So you got a tiebreaker over them. It'd be good to have a tiebreaker over the Rams. Seattle doesn't seem to be interested at all. So hopefully the Rams win that division. And right now, would you say the Vikings are not playing wild card Saturday and Sunday because they got a bye? Seems like the Eagles are the 1 seed.
Eagles are the 1. I think the Saints are 2 right now.
Vikings
because they don't have a division loss.
Vikings are the 2 seed.
Are they the 2? Because
head to head.
Before they had it. Right, but last week they had it where the Saints were the 2 and the Vikings were the 3. I I don't know why they had it, but I can't remember. I don't remember a year where at the midway point in the season that you had all 4 division leaders all within a game of each other.
All 4 division teams did make the playoffs last year.
Right. And so I can't sit here right now and say, as a matter of fact, yes, the Vikings won't be playing wild card weekend, but you look at the schedule coming up here, they can beat the Rams, they'll beat Detroit. Detroit nearly lost to Cleveland today.
They should beat everybody. But we'll see.
Well, Atlanta doesn't look great, and I'm still not sold on Carolina. But this is, and then Bengals, Packers, Bears to end the year. That's
garbage.
That should be, it's shaping up to be that way. The way this team looked on the road this week. You couldn't tell it was a road game because of all the purple in the lower bowl. My goodness, there were a lot of Vikings fans there. But it was a great win coming out of the bye on the road. And that's what they're going to need to do because 5 of their 8 games post-bye are on the road. So they need to pick up road wins whenever they can. But this was certainly a good win today. A surprise win because I didn't pick them to win.
How do I put this?
Delicately.
Charlie, be great. If you can come up with something better, think here. Without knowing what you're supposed to be thinking of. I am right now... let's see. I pulled up to my driveway. Nobody should be in my house, but they are in my house. The lights are on. I suspect something bad is in the house. I don't want to go in the house because I think I know what's going to happen. That's how I view the Vikings right now.
Nice. Sounds like you've been watching Stranger Things also.
I have not. I hear it's very good. It's on my list. I should catch up on that. Or I was thinking also a house fire. I see my house engulfed in flames. I'm like, if I go in there, I think I see I think I know what I'm going to see, and it's going to be a bunch of ashes.
How about this? None of us know specifically where we live in terms of a neighborhood, but when you're coming up a hill and you're like, oh, there's smoke, someone's burning something, and as you keep going, you're like, oh, I guess that's in my neighborhood, and you keep getting closer, and you're like, really hope that's not my house.
Oh, shit.
So, Chris, 2 years ago, it was Blair Walsh that screwed the Vikings out of...
yes.
They would have beat Arizona the next week. They would have played Carolina in the NFC Championship game.
Potentially.
Who is it this year that's going to ruin the Vikings?
It was all offensive line last year, right? If you want to blame anybody.
And Mike Zimmer's eye.
I think quarterback would be an easy spot to look. Case Keenum. Makes sense.
To make this go full circle, I feel like it's got to be Carson Wentz that ruins the Vikings season.
Oh, that'd be great.
Just to really go full Vikings along with South Dakota State also.
Kicker's been pretty good. Kicker's been real good.
And he switched hashes apparently over the bye week, and it looks like it paid off for 1 week.
There we go. So I would say quarterback or kicker. If they got to play like that, looking at that wild card, that's a mess right now. There's still 7 games, so it's hard to even look at it. But if they got to play, you beat Detroit in a couple of weeks, that sews up the division. You got to play Detroit in the playoffs, fine. You got to play Dallas, sure. You got to play Seattle, not great, but if you play Seattle, that's fine. If you got to play Green Bay, that'd be interesting. But a lot of teams still in the mix right there on both sides. So there you go. Final thoughts.
Tennessee fired Butch Jones.
Oh my God, I forgot and I remembered and I forgot again. What a great. What a.
You know what? All of us Tennessee fans are convinced it's going to be John Gruden. I don't think it will be, but part of me kind of hopes it is, just to see what that would look like, because we don't know that John Gruden. The NFL's different than college. Just because you're good at coaching one doesn't mean you'd necessarily be good at the other. And it would be interesting if. Yeah, exactly. Now, granted, Tennessee's in a better spot in a lot of ways than Illinois, but still, that's a valid point. And that, I don't know, it would be interesting if John Gruden was basically just kind of decent but nothing special, if who the magic, gonna fix everything coaching candidate would be after that. And who knows, maybe John Gruden would be great at Tennessee. And maybe he will actually go there. I mean, it's possible.
Butch Jones. Huh. I would like to see Brian Kelly do that. I just want to see him there.
Okay, that's interesting. What about Chip Kelly?
Well,
yeah, him too. I'd see Brian. Yeah, Chip Kelly would be who I wanted.
I like Brian Kelly because you would go from Butch Jones, who frequently gets upset and turns red, to like the only guy who turns more red than Butch Jones does. And also, the other fun thing, Brian Kelly's worst loss in terms of the other team was so much better was Alabama. Tennessee's designated cross-division game. You'd have to play Alabama every single year then.
That's not great. You've got... I don't think Florida's here yet because, for Christ's sake, they've made the SEC title game for 2 years in a row. Charlie, Tennessee and Nebraska, if they don't hit on this next hire, is that a huge deal, or is it, well, we'll just fire the next guy and then we'll hire somebody else, and hopefully at some point we can get back to winning 8, 9, 10 games?
It's a good question. I'm going to preface this with, in college football, you're always just one hire away from being really good again. But each hire both schools make that does not work out puts them lower on the rung of ladder of like how difficult it is to get back. I mean, I guess the bright side for Nebraska is under Bo Pelini, they weren't like bad. They just weren't as good as they wanted to be. For Tennessee, I guess the bright side is that, I mean, as recently, well, no, I don't know. I think everything I said, I still would go with what you originally said, that if it doesn't work out this time, like, you're not done, but it's just going to be even harder because every year you've got kids growing up where it's just like, oh yeah, that school, I mean, they're okay. I mean, kids now don't realize that, at least not unless somebody tells them that, like, oh yeah, Nebraska and Tennessee used to be 2 of the 5 best teams in the country constantly. Or now it's like, that's weird that they used to be good. And each year it gets harder and harder and harder without doing that to kind of get that back. So certainly, if you have any interest in either of those 2 teams, you would hope the next hire, like, even if it's not a home run, like, you need like a hit to the fence that maybe you can stretch into a double at least. For anything, you just want like stability, I guess.
It would seem like Scott Frost is going to be one of those guys who will get hired like right when the season ends, like December 1st or whenever, like right after the last game of the year, he'll be hired like.
Today's a Sunday. Technically, they could play in the conference title game, and if they play in the conference title game, it'll be extended a week. But I think either 2 weeks from today or 3 weeks from today, it'll be announced that Frost is the next head coach at either Florida, Nebraska, or Tennessee. It'll be one of those 3. I think it's more likely to be Florida or Nebraska than Tennessee, just because I think Tennessee might go a little bit of a different direction. But I think he's the hot name that I'm pretty confident is going to be at one of those 3 schools pretty soon.
Most would probably pick Florida, but would he pick Nebraska because of obvious reasons?
I mean, he might. He played there. He won a national title there. And, I mean, it's worth noting also that he's not an out-of-state guy. He's from a small town in Nebraska. So if you're a Nebraska fan, you have to hope that pulls on his heartstrings a little bit. I know Florida, if you go there, it's easier to recruit because they're much closer to talent. I believe Nebraska has. I've heard that Florida does not have very good facilities. Nebraska is much better at facilities. I think it's safe to say that recruiting is more important than facilities, though. I think the 2 advantages Nebraska has, as you mentioned, is that he's from there and he has a connection, and the other that if he's kind of just okay for the first 3 or 4 years, I think he'll get a lot more time at Nebraska, where Jim McElwain won the division his first 2 years and still got fired in year 3. And if you go to Florida, there's a possibility that it's like, well, we went 7-5 and then 8-4 and then 9-3, but got blown out twice, and I got fired in 3 years.
It does appear, Mr. Stack, and the Gophers will be bowl bound at probably 5-7.
Yeah,
Yay.
get excited for that Little Caesars garbage bowl.
I'll bring
Maybe
this
they'll
up
play
on-
the R&L Carrier Bowl.
No.
The New Mexico Bowl.
No. I'm
The
sure.
Popeye.
Pinstripe, New York City.
Nice. I'll bring this up to Marcus, but has this been a disappointment? Year 1 of
Yes.
old fucking Fleck.
Well,
5-7, if that's what it is. Maybe 5-8.
I went a little overboard
Yes.
with my preseason prediction. What I picked them at 10-2, I think,
Yes.
because I thought that with the team that they had last year, that Fleck would be able to build on that. But if I recall correctly, Western Michigan was not very good in their first year with him, and look what he did there. So he's going to get the recruits.
I hope
And
so.
they're coming really from all over the country. They got some guy from Alabama that's sitting this year and is playing next year, I think. So fans will be disappointed, but at the end of the day, just look at the track record that he had at Western Michigan, and I think it'll all be okay.
I mean, the quarterback is bad. He should probably be a running back
Yes.
or a receiver.
Yep.
So hopefully this is just a 1-year thing, because this quarterback, Croft, is just the shits. I mean, he's
Second, he went 1-11 his first year at Western Michigan.
See, there we go. So mass improvement.
good.
Also, I want to toot my own horn for calling that with Minnesota that it's not that, and I think PJ Fleck will end up being all right there. But when a school's good and you change coaches and try to change the culture, it's really difficult to be like, oh yeah, we're starting over, but we're also going to be just as good as we were the year before at the same time. That it's difficult to do. I mean, Georgia's great this year, but Georgia last year was not very good. Even though they were coming off a 9-win season. I think they went 7-6 maybe. It's just, when you change everything from a team that won 8, 9, or 10 games, it's difficult to still get back to that same level. I would imagine your Gophers will take a solid step forward in year 2, though.
I would agree. I would hope anyway.
Close losses this year. So.
I had a good college football thought, and now it is escaping me. I'll think about it.
Play on an 80-yard field.
No. I'll figure this out here. As
Make the whole stadium out of the black box.
Ah! See? I don't know why they don't do it. Next week, we'll see. Probably no show, but enjoy Thanksgiving, folks. Lounge 234. Stacking. He will wait and ponder what he thought about college football.
Christian Ponder.
Christian Ponder. An embarrassment. An embarrassment. He sucks, and his wife sucks. Next week, a couple weeks from now, 235.
Yeah.
Terrible. They all suck. We'll see ya. We'll see you in a few weeks here on the Sports Lounge. Possibly. If the thing can